Okay. Yeah. So what I'm trying to understand, so the whole process when you go by how it starts, how you start picking a stock or how you start looking for a stock, you start with screening. Okay. Uh, but we are studying screening right now. We started with number analysis. We did an induction, which was an overview of what was to come. Then we did number analysis. Then we understood the relationship between risk and return or risk and reward. We understood the definition of risk from a practical standpoint. We went on to uh, do the business analysis where we try to answer the major question, which is, does the business have favorable long-term prospects or not? Then we covered management analysis, and in between you had ample of time to implement whatever we learned, right? So
Yes, yes, yes.
the whole idea of doing the exercise the way we did was to give you an understanding of numbers and narrative so that you're conversant in converting numbers to narratives and narratives to numbers. In the exercise that you have done till now, especially the number analysis and then comparing numbers across companies for a given year and then uh, trying to apply business analysis to it and management analysis to it. You have you been able to get a hang of how you go about converting number to narrative and narrative to number?
Yes,
Okay.
kind of, yes.
Uh, Great. So would you like to share anything from your experience, Hiral, जो आपको समझ में आया हो अभी तक? कुछ नया या कुछ जो हम डिस्कस कर चुके हैं, मतलब ऐसा नहीं कि कुछ स्पेसिफिकली प्रेजेंट करना है, बट जो भी आपको समझ में आया हो, एनीथिंग दैट वाज समथिंग दैट यू एक्सपीरियंस व्हिच वाज अ वाव मोमेंट फॉर यू.
लाइक अभी फॉर एग्जांपल ये जो आपने बिजनेस एनालिसिस और मैनेजमेंट एनालिसिस दिया था, उसमें मैंने ज्वेलरी इंडस्ट्री में कल्याण ज्वेलर्स का किया वो डिटेल्स। तो लाइक जब भी नंबर्स कर रहे थे ना, तो मुझे ज्वेलरी इंडस्ट्री इतना समझ में नहीं आ रहा था। लाइक किस तरह से उसमें सेल हो रहा है, क्या करते हैं वो जिसकी वजह से उनको इतना प्रॉफिट मिल रहा है, क्योंकि फ्रंट पे इतना कुछ दिखता नहीं है नंबर्स में। बट जब भी उसके बारे में स्टडी किया, किस तरह से वो वर्क करते हैं, क्या उनके जो पोर्टर्स 5 फोर्स मॉडल है और क्या उनके ये मैनेजमेंट के जो एमडी है, उस उनकी पूरी इंटीग्रिटी का स्टडी किया मैंने कि किस तरह से वो चला रहे हैं बिजनेस, किस तरह से उन्होंने ब्रांड को बिल्ड किया है। तो फिर वो नंबर थोड़े बहुत रियल लगने लगते हैं कि हाँ, इसी वजह से ये इतना ग्रोथ कर रहे हैं और ये इनके रीजंस है कि उन्होंने ब्रांड बिल्ड किया है, उन्होंने कस्टमर को ज्यादा वैल्यू दिया है, ये सारे रीजंस है जिसकी वजह से वो कंपनी आगे बढ़ रहा है। तो सिंपली नंबर्स देखकर कुछ कुछ डाउट्स आते थे कि ये रियल है फेक है, वो सारा बिजनेस एनालिसिस और मैनेजमेंट एनालिसिस में क्लियर पिक्चर दिखता है कि किस तरह से बिजनेस जा रहा है। तो वो अच्छा लगता है, समझ आ रहा है कि वो बिजनेस के बारे में मैं कुछ स्टडी कर रही हूँ, तो वो वर्थ इट है कि वो कंपनी के बारे में स्टडी करना वर्थ इट है, वो ज्यादा समझ में आया मुझे।
दैट्स ग्रेट. बहुत सही लगा, आपने चीजों को समझा और समझाया, व्हिच इज वेरी गुड. अब आपको ये कॉन्फिडेंस है कि आप कोई नई कंपनी उठाओगे और आपके पास नंबर्स हैं या स्क्रीनर अवेलेबल है, आप जानते हो कहाँ से एनुअल रिपोर्ट डाउनलोड करते हैं, तो ये क्या आप उस कंपनी को एंड टू एंड स्टडी कर पाओगे खुद से बिना किसी
हाँ
की हेल्प?
हाँ, वो कॉन्फिडेंस मुझे है कि मुझे अगर किसी ने बोला कि ये कंपनी के बारे में मुझे कुछ दिनों में पता करके दो, तो मैं इस स्टेप मतलब स्टेप बाय स्टेप मुझे क्या देखना है वो मुझे पता है कि मैं नंबर्स को एनालिसिस करूँ, इसके बाद इसके साथ चीजों को जोड़ू, ताकि मैं कुछ एक व्यू पॉइंट बना पाऊँ कि ये कंपनी है कि नहीं इन्वेस्ट करने लायक। तो वो मुझे एक थोड़ा सा लाइन ऑफ एक्शन मिल गया है पूरा स्टेप बाय स्टेप फॉलो करने का। राइट।
तो आ- आप दूसरे का वेट क्यों करोगे, आप खुद के लिए करो.
हाँ, मतलब लाइक मैं फॉर एग्जाम्पल दे रही थी कि अगर किसी ने मुझे बोला तो मैं अभी हिचकिचाऊंगी नहीं कि मुझे नहीं आता कुछ भी ऐसा, लाइक दैट।
Sorry. Yeah. So दैट्स ग्रेट। वो चीजें समझ में आई, वो बहुत अच्छा लगा। सो आप ज्वेलरी इंडस्ट्री जब आपने स्टडी किया तो याद है हमने एक क्वेश्चन डिस्कस किया था व्हिच वाज टू डू विद ज्वेलरी इंडस्ट्री में मार्जिन, ग्रॉस मार्जिन 12 से 15% के बीच में होते हैं एंड फिर भी बॉटम लाइन हैवी आता है। तो we gave you an answer. Did you experience it yourself?
यस यस, आई हैव एक्सपीरियंस्ड इट, क्योंकि सारे नंबर्स को ही सिर्फ देख रही थी तो मुझे वो एग्जाम्पल समझ नहीं आ रहे थे जो आप दे रहे थे, या फिर समझ भी आ रहे थे तो मैं इतनी कन्विंस नहीं थी। बट ये सारे इनके पैरामीटर्स देखकर और थोड़ा सा इजी हो गया मुझे समझने के लिए कि किस तरह का इनका डिमांड चेन है, किस तरह का सप्लाई चेन है, क्या करते हैं ये लोग, वो थोड़ा समझ में आया। राइट।
That's great. So my whole purpose of asking you to do such uphill kind of a task of making you analyze 25 companies or Hiral doing 52 companies and then doing a business analysis, management analysis thoroughly of each and every company, how much ever you have covered till now was only to give you a flavor of how to do it yourself. And now I'm sure you're confident how you're going to do it yourself. Also, after this session will be on screening, which is a way to, which is using the numbers, we'll try to come up with a query or a screen that will help us come up with a shortlisted list of companies which we can go further screen and decide whether we should go ahead and research it or not. Okay? So after this session, you will have good 3 weeks, okay, not just for screening, but to do whatever has been left for you. Okay. So if you can't implement it for all the companies, don't worry, implement it for as many companies as you can. Okay. Because this is going to help you become a better investor. The more you practice, the better you will get it. Right, Hiral?
यस यस यस, डेफिनेटली।
जितनी कंपनीज की उसके बाद ना आपको अच्छी क्लैरिटी आई।
हाँ जी, श्योर।
So,
मतलब
हाँ जी बोलो, सॉरी।
हाँ, लाइक वो 52 कंपनीज की थी तो मुझे नंबर्स में तो वैसे भी मजा आ रहा था। ये
करेक्ट।
कंपनीज मैंने इतनी की है, इतनी ज्यादा नहीं कर पाई मैं, लेकिन जो भी किया मुझे हिस्ट्री कंपनी की हिस्ट्री जानकर और अच्छा लग रहा था। लाइक हम लोग जो सीए का कोर्स है मेरा, उसमें भी जो ऑडिट करके सब्जेक्ट है उसमें वही रहता है मेन मोटिव। इफ यू नो द बिजनेस, इफ यू नो द background of company, it would be easier for you to do the audit and find out the faults or whatever it is. तो इसी तरह से ये इन्वेस्टमेंट के लिए भी हेल्पफुल हो रहा है, तो वो मुझे अच्छा लग रहा है जानकर। राइट।
दैट्स ग्रेट। सो आपको इस सेशन के बाद 3 वीक्स मिलेंगे जिसमें आप आराम से अपने पेस पे जितनी कंपनीज करो कर लेना, ठीक है?
यस।
एंड मेरा कोई रेस्ट्रिक्शन नहीं है कि आप 10 करो, 25 करो, 52 करो, जितना आपको मन करे करना, ठीक है? करना जरूर। हर 2-3 दिन में कोशिश करो कि आप एक कंपनी करो ताकि आप उस फ्लो में रहो। Why I say this is because, see, agar if you're practicing something for 21 days, it becomes a new habit. If you do it for 90 days, it becomes part of your subconscious. I want it to become part of your subconscious so that आपको दोबारा से सेम 21-90 days वाला गेम नहीं खेलना पड़े।
करेक्ट करेक्ट।
अभी आप ग्रुप में हो, आप कर लो। आपने अप्रैल में कुछ किया, मई में कुछ किया, जून में कुछ किया, जुलाई में कर लोगे तो मोर और लेस क्यूमुलेटिवली आप 90 days कवर कर लोगे एंड इट विल बिकम मतलब see it is said that in our brain the neurons form new connections, okay? It's new pathways and that's how you come up with new insights when unrelated neurons tend to form that connection. So for the connection to be stronger, you will have to practice a little more. So just spend time in the next 3 weeks to do this. After this session, the next session that we'll have will be on, just give me a minute. It will be on, yeah. So it will be on 20th of July.
Okay. Hmm.
Then after that, we'll have one on 27th. And if needed, we'll have one on 3rd, or 27th will be the last. Okay.
Okay.
And the next session on 20th will be on valuation.
Okay.
आपने एनालिसिस की, आपने डिसाइड किया कि हाँ भाई, from here I want to purchase this particular thing, but now you will have to figure out how much am I willing to pay for it.
Okay. Right. हाँ.
After that, we'll talk about portfolio management, which will be a general talk session, because portfolio management is like a fingerprint. जो मेरे लिए काम करता है वो आपके लिए कर सकता है, नहीं भी कर सकता है, बट मैं उसके बेसिक प्रिंसिपल्स आपको बता दूंगा, और मैं आपको थियरी नहीं, प्रैक्टिकल वे में पोर्टफोलियो मैनेजमेंट बताऊंगा, ठीक है? And then it will be up to you to go ahead and implement it. Post that, it doesn't mean that if we complete the program on 27th of July or 3rd of August, it doesn't mean that we end there. You can practice, keep coming back, talking to me once in 15 days, once in a month, schedule a call, phone call. You want to have a phone call, it's even more convenient. We can always talk over the phone. And please keep practicing, because if you lose touch of this thing, you will never get it back. Okay. But if you get that touch into something which is more sustainable, you will have a Midas touch. Which will be like magic kar paoge. Kiran, you just look at yourself from the first day where you were not very confident about how you are going to do things, and today you have practiced so much. How far you have come.
Yes, definitely. मैं दर्शक से कल वही डिस्कस कर रही थी कि मुझे बोलने में भी डर लग रहा था, क्योंकि मैंने कभी कॉल्स भी अटेंड नहीं किए हैं, बट अभी मुझे इतना तो कॉन्फिडेंस है कि मैं जो कर रही हूँ उसके बारे में बात भी कर पाती हूँ.
मैं आपको सच बता रहा हूँ, आप जिस पेस पे आपने काम किया ना, you continue that pace just for 1 month or at max till 3rd of August, ठीक है? And then you go to any top place in equity research, even Goldman Sachs, which is a sell-side equity research place, you will be in a position to give better perspective of the business than the people sitting over there. I bet on that. क्यों? क्योंकि आप उस इंडस्ट्री से नहीं आते हो, आप आउटसाइडर हो. एक आउटसाइडर का पर्सपेक्टिव बहुत अलग होता है.
करेक्ट.
Shrikant, I hope you agree with that. I know you are tired, you can't speak much, but you can use the chat function, let us know.
I agree. I agree.
And please do practice in the next 3 weeks. Okay?
Yes.
This will be the last sort of 3 weeks for you to practice. And then it's not more about practice, it is more about a method picking it up. Okay? And even screening for that matter, screening एक तरह का tool होता है. Shrikant, I'm sure, is aware of it, but I'll still give a perspective. It's like writing an SQL query. हिरल, आपको SQL का आइडिया है? सुना है कभी?
हाँ, वो लैंग्वेज है, बस इतना पता है मुझे.
तो उसमें वो एक तरह का लैंग्वेज है जिसमें डेटाबेस में आप क्वेरी रन करते हो कि भाई इस टेबल पे अगर 10 कॉलम है तो किस कॉलम पे क्या कंडीशन लगाऊंगी, तो कौन कौन से रो शॉर्टलिस्ट होंगे टाइप के.
ओके.
मान लो आप एक्सेल में 10 कॉलम का डेटा है, ठीक है? 10 कॉलम्स हैं. फॉर एग्जांपल 50 स्टूडेंट्स हैं और उनके 10 पैरामीटर्स के अक्रॉस परफॉर्मेंस मैप किए गए हैं, ठीक है? जो 10 पैरामीटर्स है वो कॉलम्स हैं और 50 स्टूडेंट्स रोज के फॉर्म में है और उनका डेटा हर एक में रोज के फॉर्म में. मान लो एटीट्यूड एक कॉलम है, इंटीग्रिटी एक कॉलम है, एंड सबको क्वांटिफाई कर दिया गया नंबर्स में. तो आप कहीं पे लेस देन समथिंग, मोर देन समथिंग, इक्वल टू समथिंग डालोगे ना, मोर देन इक्वल टू, लेस देन इक्वल टू, ऐसे करके कंडीशनल स्टेटमेंट डालोगे या हर एक कंडीशनल फिल्टर डालोगे, तो 50 में से शायद 5 या 7 ही फिल्टर होके आएंगे.
ओके. राइट.
फॉर एग्जांपल, टू मेक इट सिंपल, लेट्स से 50 स्टूडेंट्स हैं और उनके 5 सब्जेक्ट्स के मार्क्स हैं. मैथ, साइंस, सोशल स्टडीज, मैथ, साइंस, सोशल स्टडीज, इंग्लिश, हिंदी, ठीक है? 5 सब्जेक्ट हो गए. अब आप इसमें क्वेरी रन करना चाहते हो कि एनीबडी हु हैज गॉट more than 80 in maths has got more than 50 in Hindi, more than 60 in English, more than 16 SST, social studies,
Right.
and more than 75 in science. अगर आप ये फिल्टर लगाते हो साथ में सब एंड एक साथ, तो आपको 50 के 50 स्टूडेंट मिलेंगे और उससे कम मिलेंगे
कम मिलेंगे
right? So इसी को स्क्रीनिंग बोलते हैं, ठीक है? The whole
शॉर्टलिस्ट करना है बेसिक
sorry,
शॉर्टलिस्ट करना है बेसिकली
Right,
कंडीशंस डाल
shortlisting.
कर
Screening is nothing but shortlisting. You got it perfectly right.
ओके
So the whole purpose of screening, screener.in जो आपका वेबसाइट है, उसका आप ऐप भी डाउनलोड कर सकते हो अपने फोन पे भी और अपने लैपटॉप पे भी, ठीक है? और even using a free login, you can create screens. You have certain limitations, but screening पे बहुत ज्यादा limitation नहीं होता है, ठीक है?
ओके
The whole idea of screening is to come up with companies that could potentially be good investments. Okay. In a nutshell. How will you do that is what we'll try and understand with the short presentation that we have, and then we'll do a hands-on experience of screening.
ओके ओके
So let me just share my screen. Let me know once you can see my screen.
यस इट इज विजिबल
Yeah, we are in.
Great. Okay. So as you rightly said, screening is about shortlisting. So whenever you apply for a position in a corporate, a talent acquisition guy gets in touch with you, and then they ask you a set of questions, right? And then they ask you about your background XYZ, and based on that, they make their preliminary selection. Then they give you a test. Then they make further shortlisting. Then they give you first round of interview. Then there is another shortlisting. They give you second round of interview, so on and so forth. And finally, the best candidate is selected, or a set of candidates are selected. Correct? That is exactly what we are trying to do with investing. Here, we are not looking at candidates. We are looking at potential companies to invest in. Okay? So the first part to screening is the key to writing effective screens is being able to prototype how numbers of a company you are looking for will look like. Yeah. What do you understand by this? क्या समझते हो आप इससे? हिरल, आप क्या समझते हो इससे?
स्क्रीनिंग का मतलब लाइक ऐसी क्या कंडीशंस तुम डालोगे या मतलब जो तुम प्रोटोटाइप देखना चाहते हो उसके हिसाब से कंडीशंस डालना, ऐसा कुछ
तो प्रोटोटाइप आपके दिमाग में बनना चाहिए,
बनना चाहिए पहले ही।
एंड प्रोटोटाइप बनाने के लिए आपने काम किया है क्या अभी तक?
हाँ, मतलब ये सब जो किया है उसी से अपने को पता चलेगा कि मुझे एग्जैक्टली
Exactly. Yes, Shrikant, you were saying something.
Nothing, I think Hiral answered it. Basically, whatever we are expecting, what kind of companies we want,
Correct.
उसके लिए the criteria will keep it.
Absolutely. So you need to have a skeleton or a prototype or a blueprint in your head. कि भाई ऐसा दिखना चाहिए, right? I mean, not everybody does this, but very sorted people or very logical people, when they are about to get married, they have a list of things that they are looking for in a life partner. Or even emotional people have a small list or a very jumbled up list. Everybody has some list, correct? When they are looking to get married, whether they get it or not, that's a separate issue. But yeah, everybody has a list. There also you're screening. Do you agree with me?
Yes.
When you're looking for a potential life partner, you also screen there. Okay. So you had a prototype in your head. कि भाई मेरे पापा के जैसा होना चाहिए. Yeah, the man should be like this, or the girl should be like this. So on. Okay. or these are the characteristics that I would want in the person. So the first question is, how do you figure out what numbers of your target company will look like? Kiran, you gave the answer already in partially, but here is the exact answer. So from whatever you have covered as numbers, business analysis, management analysis in companies, that's why I was asking you to cover as many companies as possible. Based on that concrete, specific example, specific data and objective, I mean objects, here you are not dealing with objects, but examples and data, you look at patterns. You remember there was one session which we dedicated to patterns, where I asked you, you know, for at least couple of years, compare numbers across companies within industries or outside industries. Do you remember that?
Yes.
So that is where you were trying to form patterns. And irrespective of whether you did it that way or you looked at companies separately, you were able to see some number pattern in successful companies and unsuccessful companies, right?
Yes.
Whether it was big, small, doesn't matter, but you were able to see it.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So that concept, idea, thumb rule, or theory is also called as mental model. And the process of doing it is called abstraction. And hence, you did number analysis, risk return understanding, business analysis, and management analysis before screening, so that you form abstract mental models from concrete examples and data. Do you get it now, why we did it the way we did it?
Yes.
Good. This is just an example of screening. So if you were to categorize it, I know you understand, but still, you know, if you were talking about dollar, euro, and pound, all three of them are currencies. Okay. All three of them are used to exchange goods or services for themselves. Then cars, bike, and scooter are vehicles. They help you transport from one place to another. So you can call all of them as currency or vehicles, and that is abstraction for you. Yeah, there's nothing you can't exactly say, okay, this is a vehicle. You can say this is a car, this is a bike, this is a scooter, but vehicle is everything. Car, bike, scooter is vehicle, correct? So it's an abstract idea. Okay. You want to understand how abstract ideas have led to human evolution. The book by Noah Harari, what is his name? What is the book's name? Sapiens.
Sapiens.
Yeah.
Sapiens.
So one of the greatest ideas in Sapiens was humans had the ability, इंसानों में वो क्षमता थी कि इंसान अपनी कल्पना को एक दूसरे के साथ शेयर कर सकते थे और एक सम्मिलित कल्पना अपने दिमाग में रख सकते थे. वो सम्मिलित कल्पना एक आइडिया, रिलीजन हो, या एक आइडेंटिटी, एक कंट्री हो, या एक फैमिली की स्टोरी हो, कुछ भी हो सकता था. राइट श्रीकांत? Am I saying that?
Correct.
आपको समझ में? Yeah, please.
हाँ.
श्रीकांत.
No, Shreya, you are right. That's what I think. I agree with you.
Okay. Fair enough. Hiral, आपको समझ में आया?
हाँ, समझा मुझे.
समझा, right?
Right.
So अगर इंसानों में कोई एबिलिटी थी जो उन्हें जानवरों से सेपरेट की ना, तो वो थी एब्स्ट्रैक्ट आइडियाज फॉर्म करके, एक दूसरे के साथ कम्युनिकेट करके, एब्स्ट्रैक्ट आइडियाज, कलेक्टिव एब्स्ट्रैक्ट स्टोरीज को अपने दिमाग में रखना. चाहे वो रिलीजियस हो, स्पिरिचुअल हो, कंट्री रिलेटेड हो, किंगडम रिलेटेड हो, बिलीफ रिलेटेड हो, कुछ भी हो. ठीक है? Abstraction is what moved the race forward. कभी मौका मिले तो सेपियंस किताब जरूर पढ़ना. उसमें you will be surprised कि वो इतनी सारी बातें इतनी चीजों के बारे करेगा और अल्टीमेटली ये बोलेगा कि स्टोरीज बोलने की क्षमता ही इंसान को जानवर से इंसान बनाई। एंड
करेक्ट।
आप सोचोगे तो आपको वो बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग आइडिया लगे। मुझे तो बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग लगा। ठीक है,
राइट।
so that's all about abstraction. So we discussed about this very thing, ability to convert numbers to narratives or stories, or narrative or stories to numbers. Only when you look at numbers first, you will be unemotional about it relatively, and then you look at stories. Whenever you look at stories first, you will get emotional. So look at numbers which are objective, and then try to convert. अच्छा, ग्रॉस मार्जिन ऐसा क्यों है? ओके, कुछ डिफरेंशिएटेड प्रोडक्ट है इसलिए ग्रॉस मार्जिन हाई है। लाइक हीरल जस्ट सेड, ओके, इनके नंबर्स इतने अच्छे क्यों हैं? क्योंकि इनका ब्रांड है कल्याण ज्वेलर्स, करेक्ट? Similarly, you'll come across multiple things as to why a number is like the way it is, and the explanation will be in the story. And then if you want to look at the story and ask, why is the story like this? Does it have a backing? It will be backed by a number. If it is not backed, if number is not backed by story, or story is not backed by number, मतलब क्या है? If number does not back the story, or story does not back the number, तो क्या हो सकता है?
कुछ तो गड़बड़
So
है।
we have this the problem.
कुछ तो गड़बड़ है, correct?
Correct.
And what should you do? Like the great Sunil Gavaskar said, well left. छोड़ दो उसको.
Avoid.
Right.
Just let it pass.
हाँ.
Or if you're curious, go find out the reason. That's fine. But don't take it upon yourself to just find out everything. Whenever they don't match, जब इंसान कुछ बोलता है और कुछ और करता है ना, तो जब उसके बोलने और करने में फर्क होता है, तो उस पर भरोसा नहीं किया जाता है. Remember, walk the talk. Remember, walk
Yes,
divided
yes.
by talk.
Walk the talk. Yes.
Similarly, narrative divided by number, or number divided by narrative. अगर नंबर और नैरेटिव का इक्वेशन सही नहीं बैठ रहा है ना, तो वहां झूठ है. You have to just leave it, or you have to get wary about it. Okay, so here we are trying to say that, assuming that things are fair, we look at numbers and we decide based on numbers, the screening. Okay, and then we'll see if the story matches or not. You have to start somewhere. So we are starting with numbers. Okay. What do you screen? You screen the parameters of a financial statement. Now you won't make sense of all the parameters of a financial statement. You won't be able to screen based on that. So you will form a parameter from multiple parameters of a financial statement, and we'll call it ratios. Remember the ratios that we discussed? A list of 20 ratios, which were three screening parameters. ये
Yes.
आपकी भगवत गीता है, ठीक है? इसको बोर्ड के पी जाओ. Remember it as if it is your kundli. Now, this doesn't apply to unique businesses or idiosyncratic businesses like banking, financial, BFSI, I mean insurance, and XYZ, but more or less these parameters are present across all industries. So understand what it says. See, knowing that it is a bird and seeing it as a bird are two different things. Do you agree? स्पैरो देखना और स्पैरो
Yes.
समझने में फर्क होता है.
Yes.
तो आप स्पैरो को समझना, ठीक है? So understand the sparrow. Don't just look at the sparrow. So if you don't go back to the first session, you will have access to the recordings. You will have access to the slides. Go understand it. You don't understand, don't worry. Shrey is not going to tell you anything. If you call him and ask him, Shrey, iska matlab kya hai? Feel free to go ahead and ask me. If I don't know, I'll say no, I'll figure out and I'll come back. Okay? If I don't know, I'll not say I know. And you do the same with yourself. You remember owner's earning? Guys, do you remember how to calculate owner's earning?
Yes, yes.
हिरल याद है?
हाँ, वो पूरा प्रोसेस याद है।
ओनर्स अर्निंग भूलना मत, ठीक है? वो निकालने का
हाँ,
सबसे बड़ा तरीका है। गन्ने से जूस से निकलता है, ठीक है? पर उसके पहले ये डिसाइड कर
Yes.
लेना कि आलू लेने लायक है और केला लेने लायक है। I mean, you guys don't eat aloo, so I'm giving an example of kela. But what I'm trying to tell you is, make sure that something is worthy before you go to calculations of owner's earning. Okay?
Correct, right.
Fair enough. Now, for each parameter, you have looked at 25 to 50 companies, okay? And the ones that are in percentage or numbers, you have an idea कि उनका outlier क्या होता है, range क्या होता है, कौन सा usual या not unusual है, कौन सा moderately unusual है, कौन सा outlier है, right? मेरे को बताओ,
Right.
70% gross margin, not unusual, moderately unusual या outlier है? Guys, 70% gross margin is usual, moderately unusual, or outlier?
Outlier.
Yeah, it is outlier. So, is it a positive outlier or a negative outlier?
Positive.
It's a positive outlier.
Yeah.
12% gross margin is usual, moderately unusual, or outlier?
Outlier, negative outlier.
Positive or negative?
Negative.
Good. And where do you see it? Jewelry business.
Exactly.
Correct. So समझ में आया, ज्वेलरी वाले डीमार्ट से भी कम मार्जिन पे बेचते हैं, और क्योंकि वो महंगा सामान बेचते हैं, इसलिए खर्चा वर्चा सब निकल जाता है,
Right.
राइट? और आपको शोरूम में बैठा के कोल्ड ड्रिंक भी पिलाते हैं।
हाँ ना।
बचपन में तो पिलाते थे, आजकल पता नहीं पिलाते कि नहीं।
हाँ, अभी तो काफी टाइम से गए ही नहीं है ज्वेलरी शॉप में।
अब बकरा 2 लाख रुपए का सामान लेने आएगा तो उसको 100 रुपए का कोल्ड ड्रिंक पिला दिया तो क्या हो गया?
वही
100 रुपए का 2 लाख रुपए का 1% भी बना तो कितना बना? 2 लाख रुपए का 1% भी 2000 रुपया होता है, 100 रुपये जाता है, और वो 1% नहीं बनाते हैं, राइट?
हाँ,
मान लो 2 लाख रुपए का आपने ज्वेलरी लिया, उसका 12% कितना होगा? 10% 20,000, 12% 24,000, करेक्ट? ग्रॉस मार्जिन। उसमें से ऑपरेटिंग कॉस्ट कितना % ऑफ सेल होता है? ऑपरेटिंग कॉस्ट एज अ परसेंटेज ऑफ सेल इन ज्वेलरी बिजनेस हाउ मच? मोटा मोटा
भी मुझे देखना पड़ेगा, एक सेकंड।
ये सब याद हो जाना चाहिए आपको।
11%।
चलो 11%, 10% लेते हैं सिंप्लिसिटी के लिए।
10 लेते हैं, 2400।
तो मतलब 2% उनके पास बचा, which is 4,000 rupees। 4,000 rupees कमाने के लिए अगर उसने आपको एक गिलास कोल्ड ड्रिंक पिलाया, एक गिलास कोल्ड ड्रिंक कितने का होता है?
100 रुपए से भी कम ही होता रहेगा मे बी।
10 रुपए का भी नहीं होता है।
हाँ,
तो क्या दिक्कत है?
Obviously,
पिला सकता है, राइट?
हाँ,
कुछ ही पिलाएगा। ओके, नाउ टेल मी, an asset turnover of an invested capital turnover of 0.5 invested capital turnover of 0.5, is it usual, moderately unusual, or outlier? Quick. Invested capital turnover of 0.5 is usual, moderately unusual, or outlier? Guys, okay. An asset turnover of, an invested capital turnover of 2 is usual, moderately unusual, or outlier?
Usual.
Correct. It is usual. 0.5 is unusual.
Usual.
It's outlier, negative outlier. Can you think of a business जहां पे 0.5 का invested capital turnover होगा? Sorry, I didn't hear you.
I'm thinking.
Sorry.
Thinking is right, not yet answered.
Okay.
Not yet answered.
No problem. Think about it.
Maybe real estate.
Real estate can be, but it can be real estate. In the down cycle, real estate can be. What else? Okay, if I were to ask you, I'll give you a business, a company which has 4 verticals. I'll ask you which vertical of them could have a margin like that, could have an invested capital turnover like that. ITC, is it cigarette? Is it FMCG? Is it paper, or is it hotel?
Hotel.
Hiral?
Yeah, hotel.
होटल राइट. होटल का मार्जिन कितना होगा पता है? 30-35%. इसलिए तो आईटीसी ग्रैंड मराठा में जब आदमी जाता है तो जेब खाली करके लौटता है.
Yes.
राइट. वो कम लोगों से ज्यादा पैसे ऐंठने के चक्कर में होता है. Whereas in the business of cigarette, what kind of invested capital turnover can you expect? Less than 2, more than 2?
More than 2.
More than 2?
Mm.
Yeah. And what kind of margin do you expect? Less than 10, more than 10?
Less.
More
Less than
than
10.
More than 10. More than 10.
More than 20.
Oh, हाँ, right.
सिगरेट बनाने का खर्चा नहीं होता है,
हाँ, बेचना ही होता है उसे तो.
कुछ नहीं होता है. सबसे ज्यादा टैक्स पे करता है वो लोग.
Tax.
So you're getting a hang of how things are, right? Why you should know range, average, and outlier. What is near average, which is away from average. So that when you look at something, for example, if you are a cricket selector, a kid who plays like Sachin Tendulkar comes in front of you and plays, will you be able to recognize him? If yes, how? You should have seen enough cricket to recognize him, right?
Yes.
अगर आपने क्रिकेट देखा ही नहीं है तो क्या सचिन और क्या अभय पुरवेल, सबको आइडेंटिफाई. करेक्ट.
Right.
तो इसलिए आपको चीजों को सिर्फ करना नहीं है, देखना भी है. तो इन 3 हफ्तों में जो भी किया है ना, उसको 1-1 घंटे ही सही शिद्दत से एकदम फोकस वे में देखना. ठीक है. इस बार करने का समय ज्यादा नहीं है, देखने का समय. Okay, Hiran?
Yes.
Srikanth, are we on the same page?
Yes, yes.
Good. Okay. Then writing high quality screens. The ideas discussed are enough to enable you to write quality screens that would help you identify companies with sustainable competitive advantage, earn reasonably above the market average return. you would earn above 15% return with even this skill. Okay? But for multi-bagger sort of returns, which is 50x, 100x sort of returns, you will need to up the game by mixing another key skill set that will enable you to write high quality screens. And that skill set is this. I'll just play the video. Give me a moment. Let me know if you can hear it. Just 1 minute. I'll just stop sharing my screen and share my screen again.
This mustn't register on an emotional level.
Can you see my screen, guys? Can you hear it?
Yes, yes.
Can you hear it?
Yeah.
I'll start from beginning again.
Oi, we ain't done yet!
This mustn't register on an emotional level. First, distract target. Then block his blind jab. Counter with cross to left cheek. Discombobulate. Dazed, he'll attempt wild haymaker. Employ elbow block. And body shot. Block feral left. Weaken right jaw. Now fracture. Break cracked ribs. Traumatize solar plexus. Dislocate jaw entirely. Heel kick to diaphragm. In summary, ears ringing, jaw fractured, 3 ribs cracked, 4 broken, diaphragm hemorrhaging. Physical recovery 6 weeks. Full psychological recovery 6 months. Capacity to spit it back of head neutralized.
Are you able to follow?
Yes.
Yes.
So, just let me share my screen again. So what did you see? What did he do? What did the fellow do?
पहले ही रिजल्ट विजुअलाइज कर लिया मुझे क्या चाहिए और स्टेप्स क्या क्या मैं करूंगा तो वो मुझे मिलेगा एंड देन
Absolutely. Shrikant, you got it?
Yeah, got it. Got it.
So it's from the Sherlock Holmes movie. Okay. And this skill is called mental simulation. इसका मतलब होता है कि अपने दिमाग जो आप करने वाले हो ना उसको अपने दिमाग में पूरा विजुअलाइज करो स्टेप बाय स्टेप. आप कैसे क्या क्या करना चाहते हो, करेक्ट, एंड देन
Yes.
एक्सिक्यूट. Okay. This very skill will help you write better screens. I know this skill is very similar to abstraction, but abstraction is looking at past data and prototyping based on past data. Whereas mental simulation is deciding something which you want in the future. Do you see the subtle difference?
Yes.
So mental simulation, abstraction is more like pattern recognition, looking at past data, mental simulation is doing it in the future so that you use it for planning and actually executing things. Okay, so that's one skill that you'll have to develop. Now, what sort of errors should you focus on avoiding while screening? When you're doing the first screening, which type of error should you avoid? In statistics, we have two types of error, type 1 and type 2 error. Type 1 is false positive, something that's not possible. Type 2 is false negative, something which is there which is correct but has been rejected. So which error, when you are writing your first screen or when you are screening for the first time, irrespective of whether you're doing it first time or 10th time, which type of error should you avoid in the first attempt? False positive or false negative?
Type 1 error, false positive.
False positive. Hiral, what do you think?
Type 1, I guess.
Yeah, you should avoid false positive. ठीक है?
Hmm.
कुछ भी गलत चीज को अंदर आने मत दो in your screening list. That's the whole idea. A man can never be pregnant, so he is to be avoided, right? No matter what. Once you have done your initial screening with your shortlisted list after initial screening, for example, you screened 6,000 companies listed on the stock market, which have data on screener.in, and then you came up with 50 companies. Now from 50, when you're looking at 50 and you're doing the screening again, which is looking at the business, reading a little here and there, but not looking at valuation, just looking at the quality of the business analysis, management analysis, and looking at things holistically, number to narrative, narrative to number. Now, should you focus on type 1 error or type 2 error? Which one should you reduce? What would be your approach?
Type 2.
Sorry,
Type 2.
Shrikant, what do you think?
For me, it's again type 1 within those 50.
So, see, you've already weeded out type 1 error, okay? And that was to ensure that you're not broadly wrong. Now, when you're looking at the shortlisted companies to further shortlist, you should focus on type 2 error or false negative so that you don't miss out something which is great. Because you're very unlikely to have type 1 error post your first screening. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's unlikely.
Okay.
Now, when you've done your initial screening, you should focus on type 2 error so that you don't miss out on something that was great. I'll give you an example from 2014 that I screened, okay? I ran a screen as I ran multiple screens. And from there, I found the numbers of Hatsun Agro products to be good yet dangerous. More on the debt levels, okay? And I went ahead and started reading the annual report. I saw the auditor's opinion, which was qualified opinion. Most people would then and there itself say it's which type of error. I mean, the company would be type 1 or type 2. You have a qualified auditor's opinion. Is it false positive or false negative?
False negative.
Positive.
False positive. Okay.
If you have an auditor's qualified auditor's opinion, वो कंपनी अच्छे होने का चांस बहुत कम है. वो अच्छा नहीं हो सकता है. But the fine print said they were using short-term funds for long-term purpose. Now, as an investor, how would I rate someone who takes short-term pain for long-term gain? Should I appreciate him or depreciate him? If I see a company
Appreciate.
short-term pain for long-term gain, should I appreciate or depreciate him? Hiral, you were saying something.
Depreciate. Depreciate.
Depreciate or appreciate?
Depreciate.
Okay. अगर कोई शॉर्ट टर्म पेन लेके लॉन्ग टर्म गेन कर रहा है तो वो अच्छा कर रहा है या बुरा कर रहा है?
वैसे तो अच्छा कर रहे हैं, हाँ, राइट.
Right?
हम्म.
I mean, if you focus on all the advice that elders give you, they tell you save money now for rainy days, invest, have a house,
हम्म.
live within your means, blah blah blah. Remember?
हम्म.
Why do they say it? So that
फ्यूचर अच्छा
you
हो
take
जाए, तुम्हारा
short-term
सिक्योर हो
long-term
जाए.
gain,
हम्म. राइट.
right?
हम्म.
And that is how I bumped into Hudson Agro Products.
ओके. हम्म.
I'm not saying this is a foolproof method. This is one approach that has worked for me.
हम्म. राइट.
The first set of screening, always get out type 1 error. Be very strict. But
हम्म.
once you screen strictly, and when you're weeding out something, when you're weeding out in a way that you don't want something negative to be inside, then don't worry if you miss out something good. Okay. But once you have shortlisted, then focus on, okay, if I've shortlisted, there must be something special. Let me read. Let me at least understand before I reject it. Okay. But always remember, your mindset is not of a selector. In both the screening, in both the error recognition, आपका mindset जो है वो एक selector का नहीं होना चाहिए, rejector का होना चाहिए. You understand the difference?
मोर स्ट्रिक्ट होना चाहिए.
हाँ, strict होना चाहिए. और आप accept या select तब करोगे जब आप उसको reject नहीं कर पाओगे.
करेक्ट.
So you have to be sort of, ये अच्छा नहीं है.
हम्म.
अगर वो wrong prove होता है तो ये अच्छा है.
करेक्ट.
ये perspective अगर आपने सीख लिया ना, as an investor, as a screener, you'll be very successful in life.
राइट.
Srikanth, I'm sure you are aware of this.
Yeah, yes.
You always need to have a rejector's perspective. Even in statistics, they tell you H naught is this is not right. Only once you have proved that this is not right, is not correct, this is right.
Our hypothesis be ऐसा करते हैं. Hypothesis be anything to prove, or writing any research, normal research, standard research also, we do the same way. Hypothesis.
Right. The null hypothesis is this is not good.
Correct.
It's not this is good. That's never the null hypothesis. H naught or null hypothesis is this is not good. Alternate hypothesis or H1 is this is good. If this is not good, is proved wrong, this is good. Basically, have you all seen Tailspin as a kid? Tailspin, Baloo वाला कार्टून याद है जिसमें उसका प्लेन होता था, सीगल के नाम से एक प्लेन था येलो कलर का.
नहीं, ये कार्टून नहीं पता.
ओके, नो प्रॉब्लम. मैं आपको कहानी बताता हूँ उसकी. ठीक है. उसको प्रूव करना होता है कि सर्दी वाले एरिया में मैंगोज नहीं उगते, मैंगो ट्रीज नहीं होते, which is theoretically correct. ठीक है. In colder regions where it snows, mango trees do not grow. But he says, I have seen a mango tree in a colder region, and he flies the person who challenges it to that place and shows him the mango tree. Okay. If the mango tree is there, it means the null hypothesis is right. वहाँ mango trees होते हैं. ठीक है.
राइट.
अगर वो नहीं होता तब वो प्रूव होता कि नहीं मैंगो ट्रीज वहां नहीं होते. बेसिकली अगर आपको लाइफ में प्रूव करना है कि ऑल स्पॉन्स आर वाइट, you will have to first look for one black swan. अगर आपको एक भी black swan मिल गया मतलब all swans are not white. Correct?
Correct.
So that's how you think. As an investor, always be sort of a rejecter or a pessimist. जब भी कोई बोले तो उसको इसलिए मत सुनो कि अरे क्या अच्छा है इसमें, पहले ये सोचने का कोशिश करो कि ये जो बोल रहा है उसमें क्या चांस है कि ये गड़बड़ कर रहा है. ठीक है, I know that's not socially acceptable, it won't work in social settings, but if you want to make money, that's the approach
Correct.
in investing. You
Hmm.
will not be wrong more often. Okay, that's all that I had at the presentation for you. Now we'll look at the practice part. Okay. Any questions till here? Hiral, Srikanth, any questions?
No, अभी तो कुछ नहीं है.
Fair enough.
No.
Srikanth, any questions?
No stream. As of now.
Just let me share my screen. So, आप अपने लैपटॉप पे एक बार स्क्रीनर खोलो, ठीक है, screener.in पर. Just open screener.in once in your laptops. In another tab, of course. You log in using your login, and once you are done, please tell me.
Yes. किया login.
Srikanth will wait for you to log in, okay?
Yeah, done from my side.
Okay. So please click on screens. The top, you've got screener, feed, and then screens. Click on it and then click on create new screens. Fair enough. Now, do you have the list of parameters that we just saw some time back? The key screening parameters which were there in number analysis, 20 parameters.
Yes.
Yeah. So उन parameters में से सबसे पहला वाला क्या था?
वो रेशियो एनालिसिस का ही बोल रहे
हाँ,
हैं.
रेशियो. सबसे पहला पैरामीटर क्या था?
और
ROC.
Return on invested capital, correct?
Yeah.
Right?
yes.
तो यहाँ पे आप टाइप करो रिटर्न ऑन इन्वेस्टेड कैपिटल, आता है क्या? See, you have return on invested capital. ठीक है? That is NOPAT plus NOPAT divided by invested capital. Net block plus working capital. NOPAT is net operating profit after tax. ठीक है? नॉन ऑपरेटिंग आइटम को उसने हटा रखा है. How much? This is just for 1 year. Okay, it's not for more than 1 year. So we're just looking at 1 year's data. So tell me, how much would you want the return on invested capital to be minimum? कितना आप accept करोगे as per your abstraction?
20%.
20%. Hiral, what about you?
हाँ 15 to 20 के बीच में 20.
जो 20 के ऊपर जाएगा तो दिक्कत है.
नहीं,
The more is
दिक्कत
good,
तो नहीं
right?
है.
So
Yeah,
let's say
more.
50%. Okay. Or if you want to keep 20%, you write 20%. Okay. Then you say, if you want to have more parameters, you use A and D. And okay. And whenever you use an and it is accepted by the screener's operating mechanism, it will get converted into more capital and your cursor will move to the next line. You can try that yourself. Are you able to do it?
Yes.
Return on invested capital जो drop down आएगा उससे select करना तभी होगा और 20% लिखना ठीक है. Okay. What is the next parameter that we have? After return on invested capital?
Net margin है.
It is,
Net
sorry,
margin.
okay. So
Net margin.
net margin for last year, preceding year, latest quarter, preceding year, quarter. What do you want? We'll not complicate, we'll just put last year. Okay? You can choose whatever you want. You want net margin to be higher than or lower than some number? Hiral, I want you to answer this.
Higher than.
Higher than how much? कितना accept करोगे आप? कितना accept करोगे हिरल? Hello.
हाँ, 15%.
15%. Oh. यार अगर 15% अगर हम रिटर्न ऑन इन्वेस्टेड कैप मतलब मार्जिन ही एक्सपेक्ट करेंगे तो वो टर्नओवर कितना करेगा? I mean, yes, you can put 15%, but do you think there will be many companies that will be more than 15%?
या नहीं,
So,
ज्यादा रखना पड़ेगा फिर अपने को.
नहीं ज्यादा रखोगे या कम रखोगे? You have to
सॉरी,
decide.
कम रखें.
कम
मतलब
कितना रखोगे?
10-11% वैसा कुछ.
Srikanth, what do you think?
The net margin
Sorry?
should be, yeah, it should be more as per my knowledge.
It should be more than how much?
More than minimum 20%.
Sorry?
20.
Boss, if it is 20%, if net margin only is 20%, your invested capital turnover will be only 1.
Okay, got it.
So see, here is where I want you to understand and do it yourself. ठीक है? मैं ऐसा क्यों बोल रहा हूँ? Say if you are looking at a QSR business, how much would you keep the mark? If you would want the business to be like a QSR business, not exactly QSR, but like a QSR, कितना रखोगे आप?
It should be 40.
It should be
40.
how much?
40.
40.
Oh, it's a net margin, right? Sorry, I thought
Net margin 40 for a QSR business.
No. Net
How much
margin, it should be around, net margin should be around 12%. 12 to
You say
15.
12%. Okay. So it is completely up to you. See, You can have 10%, 12%, 15%, even 40%. But you should understand, if you have 40% net profit margin and return on invested capital as 20, your invested capital turnover is how much? 0.5. It will give you more like what kind of a business
Hotel.
from the ITC list that we discussed.
Hotel.
Cigarette, FMCG, paper or hotel?
Hotel.
Hotel. Do you want a hotel?
No.
If you want a hotel, then that's a good one. Okay? We'll do that. Let's see what comes. Okay? ये करके देखते हैं. Greater than, let's say 40%. And we'll run the screen. There are 157 companies that come. Okay. Let's see how many of them would be sort of what natured companies that we get. So you've got textiles, okay, that have very high margin. Then there are negative numbers which make it complicated for you to understand. I am able to see industry because I have a paid subscription. You will not be able to see industry. Okay. Highest number कहाँ मिल रहा है आपको? देखो इंडस्ट्री में हाईएस्ट नंबर यहाँ कहाँ मिल रहा है आपको? सब में 1111 है. Highest is where?
Finance.
Okay, we come to finance. And in finance, do you see any bank? इनमें से कोई भी बैंक है क्या?
No.
So most of them, these are what type of companies? One of them is stock broking, one of them is asset management. Let's look at other companies, okay? Then you have got HDFC,
Asset
AMC,
management.
asset management. Then you have got
Investment.
One Life, again asset management. Aditya Birla AMC, asset management. Dolat Algotech, Dolat Capital hai yahan pe, correct? So all these are UTI AMC, right? Why do you think AMC's का business ऐसा है? Why do you think AMC's business is like this? Let's say we click on one of the AMCs, okay? We look at why it is so. We click on HDFC AMC, okay? And then let's see why it is so. See my screen. I now have it on my screen. So if we go to HDFC AMC, we look at profit and loss. We look at net profit for the last year. It is 1946 for a sale of how much? 2584. Roughly 19,050 crores for 2,500, 600 crores. Sale. That is huge margin, correct? Right? And then when you look at assets, what do you have in assets? You don't have a lot of assets as well. Fixed asset, other assets you don't have a lot. You don't have this a lot. Okay. Return on invested capital will be very high. It's not 20, it is way more than that. Right?
Yes.
So, do you see what nature of companies you get once you screen based on certain parameters?
Yes.
Yeah. So, we'll come back to that screen and we'll do it again. Okay. Give me a moment. Srikanth, did you see?
Yes, friend. Yeah, got it.
You noticed, right?
Yeah.
So we go back to the same screen and we go back to the same screen and we go to the query again. Okay. The query will always be there at the bottom. So now what we do is we will reduce this to 10. Okay. Do you think you'll get more companies or less companies if we reduce it to 10?
More companies.
Correct. So you got an idea. Now we'll add another parameter. Okay. What do we write after this? We put a space and we add a word. What is that word? Hiral?
And
A-N-D.
A and D.
A-N-D. It automatically takes my cursor to the next one. Now from the list that we have, what is it? That is the next ratio. Invested capital turnover.
Invested capital turnover.
Correct. So we write invested capital turnover. So you don't have invested capital turnover. How, if you don't have invested capital turnover, how will you write it? What is the formula for invested capital turnover? Quick, guys. Please tell me so that I can write. I don't know anything.
Sales by invested capital.
Let Hiral tell
Invested
the rest.
capital. Sales
Sales
by
by-
invested capital.
Shabash. So sales on the numerator, denominator, invested. So we don't have invested capital. What is the formula for invested capital? Hiral? Hiral.
Net working plus net block.
Shabash. Net block plus
Plus net working capital.
working.
वो भी नहीं है क्या?
Okay. So we don't have net working capital also. Okay.
Right.
So what is the formula for net working capital?
That क्या बोलते हैं इसको?
Dash plus dash minus dash.
Inventory
Receivables
plus receivables
plus
plus
receivables minus payables minus advance.
Inventory plus
Receivable. Trade
trade
receivables.
receivables minus
Minus trade payables
payables, trade payables.
and
Minus
advance
Advance from
from
customer.
customers.
ठीक है. ये हो गया एक bracket close, second bracket close. ठीक है. Greater than or less than. Do you want a high invested capital number or a low invested capital number? I mean, high invested capital turnover or low invested capital turnover. It depends on the nature of business you are screening, right? So should you put it high or low? You're looking for sustainable businesses which have a wider moat, which sell to a lot of customers. Should you have a higher number as invested capital turnover or a lower number?
higher.
Higher, more than 2.
More than. More than how much?
2.
Fair enough. Now let's run the screen and see if it gives an error or it allows. Okay, it gives. So now you have got 380 companies. Okay, if we were to see the industry, which industry has the highest number of
Finance.
Right. Again, finance, correct? So are you seeing why finance is coming up so much? Why do you think finance is coming up so much? Is finance an asset heavy business or an asset light business?
Asset
Finance.
light.
Let's take only AMC. AMC is an asset light business. Yeah.
Other than that.
So sales by invested capital is very high,
Hmm.
much more than 2. the net profit margin, भाई इतना पैसा आता है कि 75% अपने घर पे रखते हैं, ठीक है,
Correct.
60-70%. So net profit margin also is very high. Multiplication of both is return on invested capital. That is very, very high, much more than 20. And that's why you have finance companies. You're getting it?
Yes, yes, correct.
Now, if I were to say, tweak this a little and say, if I reduce this number by, we reduce the net profit margin by some quantum, 5. Okay. And then we put an invested capital number as 4. Okay. And we don't look at finance companies, we look at everything else. We'll not look at finance companies, we'll look at others. Okay. You've got IT software again, asset light business. See what has come up big way. Trading, again asset light. Do you see what has come up in a big way? Apart from the asset light businesses, FMCG has come up,
FMCG has also come up.
right? Let's see what is there in FMCG. You click on this and you will have the FMCG companies. Why the FMCG companies? Because they have a decent margin and a high turnover. Right? Now let's add more flavor to this. What do you want to write after this to add more parameters? Hiral? इसके बाद क्या लिखेंगे 4 के बाद? के बाद we'll write a word so that I can write another parameter, right? What will be the word?
A and D.
Yes, A and D. Thank you. I know I'm repeating, but still. So the next parameter is return on capital employed.
Employed.
And then there is capital employed turnover, which is similar to invested capital and invested capital turnover. So we'll skip that. Okay. You can use either depending on what kind of company you're looking at. Okay. You remember the difference between the two? Hiral, Srikanth, do you remember? Return on invested capital and return on capital employed and their respective turnover ratios you've discussed in detail. They are similar, right? They are not the same, but they are similar.
Yes.
So we'll go to gross margin. Now let's say gross margin is greater than or less than? You want gross margin to be high or low? High. Let's say I take a lower gross margin of 20% and I put another condition saying gross margin less than 30 and I run the screen. Sorry, percent I have left. And if I run the screen, I have only 21 companies. Okay. And if we see the industry, what do we have more?
Finance, but only 3.
Only 3, right?
Mm.
So finance will come up in almost everything.
Yeah.
So you've got automobile, auto ancillary, FMCG sort of companies. Okay. Now, if say for example we don't put this and say that it is 40% gross margin and gross margin less than 50%. Okay. And we reduce the capital employed, the invested capital turnover to 2. Okay. And we run the screen. What do you get? You're not getting any finance company. Why do you think we didn't get any finance company? We got only one finance company. What did I tweak that finance companies stopped coming here? What did I change? I changed the invested capital turnover ratio, right?
Right.
I got it from 4 to 2.
Hmm.
And you see the
Gross
difference,
margin.
right? So these are nuances that you will add. Okay. Let's say we add further and we say operating cost to sale or operating margin you want to put, we'll put operating margin. Since we have put 2 margins, let's skip operating margin and put operating cost to sale. Operating cost to sale. Less than how much? Less or more? You want operating cost to sale to be less or more?
Less.
Less than
Less.
how much? How much do you want it to be less than?
%20.
Sorry. How much?
20.
20. Okay. Let's say 20%. Let's put 20%. And what is the next ratio? Quality of earning. Now a lot will be screened. Quality of earning. I have created that ratio so it is available. Less than or more than? You want quality of earning to be less than or more than? Hiral,
More than
how much?
100%.
Okay, come on here. We are expecting too much. कितना रखें?
Yeah.
75 करते हैं?
75, yeah. Huh.
Let's say, see, idealistic doesn't work
Yeah.
in reality. Then there is net profit growth. Net profit growth होगा. एक सेकेंड में. Profit growth or net profit growth are the same. Should you take 1 year profit growth or 3 year, 5 year profit growth? Which one?
3 year, 5 year.
Okay.
5 years.
Let's say we take 5
5.
years. How much should it be more than? किस रेट पे प्रॉफिट बढ़ना चाहिए? अब धंधा बोलो. How much?
10%.
That's too low. In India, it's too low. Hiral,
25%.
कितना?
25.
25%. हिरल कितना बोला आपने?
हाँ मैंने 25 बोला.
25. चलो 25 रखते हैं. ठीक है, ज्यादा ही गया बट रख लेते हैं. एंड फिर सेल्स ग्रोथ भी लिखोगे. सेल्स ग्रोथ भी 5 इयर्स का ही लोगे क्योंकि 5 इयर्स लिया है. सेल्स ग्रोथ शुड बी फास्टर देन प्रॉफिट ग्रोथ और प्रॉफिट ग्रोथ शुड बी फास्टर. Should sales growth number be lower or higher than profit growth? You see how I'm relating. Should the sales growth number be higher or lower than profit growth?
Higher.
Should be lower. I
कैसे
mean,
कैसे
it can be higher, but ideally आपका जितना तेज sales grow हो रहा है ना, उससे तेज profit grow हो रहा है, मतलब आप में efficiency है,
ओके राइट हाँ
right? तो इसको 20% बढ़ाओ.
करेक्ट
नेक्स्ट पैरामीटर क्या है? ओनर्स अर्निंग. ओनर्स अर्निंग ये कैलकुलेट कर पाएगा क्या?
हम ही मुश्किल से कर रहे थे
हाँ, क्या बोल
हमने
रहे
ही
हो?
मुश्किल से किया था ये करेगा कैलकुलेट तो बहुत ज्यादा दिक्कत होगी
ओनर्स अर्निंग अगर ये कर लेगा ना, तो हम लोग सब रिटायर कर जाएंगे.
हाँ ना
ऐसा कभी नहीं होगा. Not because it can't do it formula wise, but because it needs estimation and an idea on your own end. करेगा तब भी गलत ही आएगा, मतलब आपके अनुसार नहीं होगा. ठीक है. इन्वेंट्री डेज लेते हैं पहले. रिसीवेबल डेज. डेज रिसीवेबल आउटस्टैंडिंग या रिसीवेबल डेज लेस देन और मोर देन. क्विक गाइस. और एंड हाउ मच?
Less than. Should be
लेस देन हाउ मच? हिरल, कितने से कम होना चाहिए? बोलो बोलो. कितना उधारी देने का मार्केट में? 10 दिन का, 20 दिन का, 2 महीने का, 6 महीने का, साल भर का, 2 साल का? How much do you want to give credit in the market? That's what it means, right? Hiral? Hello. Hiral, I think we lost you. Hiral? Please drop off and join back again. Let's wait for her to join. Yeah. Hi, Hiral. Hiral, am I audible? You're not audible. Right? You're not audible.
हेलो
Yeah, you're audible. So,
या हेलो
हाँ.
30
So days
days
receivable outstanding क्या बोलता है?
30 days
30 days. चलो. So less than 30 days. And inventory days कितना लेना है? Days inventory outstanding also is the same. Less than or more than? And how much? Just give a number. Less than, more than,
less
बताओ
than
ना.
45
Less than 45 days. चलो. Good. Confident. I like it. And
payable days
payable days. Payable days कितना होना चाहिए?
greater than
Less than
60
or more
days
than?
3 days.
greater
Sorry.
than
Srikanth, how
greater
much?
than होना चाहिए
Greater than?
Greater than 60 days. 60 days.
Greater than 60 days. चलो.
इसमें कुछ
Complete.
डेज वगैरह कुछ लिखना नहीं पड़ेगा 30 के बाजू में
क्या लिखना पड़ेगा?
डेज या ऐसा कुछ लिखना नहीं पड़ता 30 के बाजू
नहीं
में
नहीं, वो
45 के
बस
बाजू
देखो,
अच्छा
जो भी डेटा परसेंटेज में होता है ना,
हाँ
उसमें परसेंटेज डालने का. जो
ओके
डेटा
बाकी सब
नंबर
ऐसे
में होता है वो नंबर डाल देने का. जो पॉइंट में होता है वो पॉइंट डाल देने का. वो समझ जाएगा.
ओके ओके
समझे? पर कभी भी परसेंटेज मिस किया तो गड़बड़ होगा, या पॉइंट मिस किया तो गड़बड़ होगा. फॉर
Correct.
एग्जाम्पल इन्वेंट्री इन्वेस्टेड कैपिटल टर्नओवर 2 लिखा है. इसमें अगर मैं 0.2 या 2% कर दूंगा ना तो गड़बड़ हो जाएगा.
करेक्ट
ठीक है. नेक्स्ट, कैश कन्वर्शन साइकिल कितने दिन का होना चाहिए?
this plus this minus this
मोर देन या लेस देन?
Less than.
Less than how much? This plus this minus
Minus
this.
is 15.
15.
Hmm.
15 हुआ ना?
हाँ.
75 by 15, right, Shrikant?
Yes.
Next,
Yeah, correct.
borrowing by free cash flow to firm. Or debt, yeah, borrowing are the same. By free cash flow last year. वो free cash flow to firm ही होता है, ठीक है? More than or less than? Wait, guys. More than or less than?
Less than
Less than how much?
2%. Two, maybe 2.
Sorry?
2.
Let's say 2. And the next number is, देखो, net profit growth has been repeated, so sorry for that. Sales growth we have covered. Volume growth you don't get on screener, so don't try. Invested capital growth try कर सकते हैं, पर वो हमें निकालना पड़ेगा, इसलिए वो छोड़ देते हैं, ठीक है? You won't get it, so I'll just leave it and I'll run the screen. If I get any data, I'm lucky. You don't have any dream company, forget it. That's what screener tells me.
Yeah.
So समझ में आया, जब आप आइडियल कंपनी ढूंढने जाते हो ना, तो मिलेगा नहीं, आपको ट्वीक करना पड़ेगा.
वो तो मिलेगा ही नहीं. Hmm.
What I'll do is I'll copy this and share it with you, and you can tweak yourself and see.
Yes.
Sharing it right now on the chat. You can copy it and paste it there and try yourself. Okay? What I want you to do now is every day, morning, evening, okay, write one screen with a prototype in your head. And the prototype has to be the name to save the screen. So if I want to save the screen, I will say save. Example name would be date of today, but sorry, 30th June 2024 hyphen ideal company. I'm just saying ideal company. You, and in the description, write down what you are looking for. Were you looking for a jewelry like business, or an FMCG like business, or an AMC like business, or what type of business? Or if you're looking for certain characteristics, write down. Daily do it twice, one in the morning, one in the evening. Nothing else. Possible to do? And you need not make the query public. ये आपके learning के लिए आप करो. I never make any of my queries public.
Okay.
Okay.
Hmm.
So you save it. Do it on a daily basis for 3 weeks. I'll talk to each one of you over the phone once a week at least. You can talk to me more than that. You want to talk to me daily, I'll talk to you daily. You will get bored, hence I'm not saying, okay? But irrespective of when, try to talk to me at least once a week. Give me an update of how you're doing the screening, okay?
Right. Okay.
Right now, you've got only few implementations. One, to do one screen, 2 screens a day, one in the morning, one in the evening, daily for 3 weeks, 21 days. Hence, I'm taking exact 21 days. And next, whatever you have done, if you want to add more, feel free to add more, no compulsion. If you're not adding more, or if you haven't done, please do it to a level where you are satisfied. Read the book that we discussed about, Understanding Michael Porter. Have you both read it? Understanding Michael Porter?
हाँ, थोड़ा स्टार्ट कर दिया था मैंने, बट बाद में बाकी है। तो आपने ऑडिबल बोला था डाउनलोड करने, वो किया है, सो सुनूंगी अभी मैं
हफ्ते
रोज।
में वो हो जाएगा।
हाँ,
ठीक है, श्रीकांत हो जाएगा आपका?
हो जाएगा, इट्स
हो
ऑलमोस्ट
जाएगा,
50% हो
correct?
गया, या हो जाएगा।
And apart from this, जो whatever you have done, sit with all that data for 15 minutes and read and just look at it and reflect. एक बार देखो और बैठ के सोचो कि आपने क्या किया है, so that you're good at abstracting, and so that when it is up to you for writing the screen, you become the Sherlock Holmes who knows which punches and which kicks to give.
यस,
Clear?
राइट। जो आपने पता है वो एनालिसिस करने के लिए बोला था, फॉर एग्जांपल मैंने कोई एक इंडस्ट्री लिया है, उसमें मल्टीपल कंपनीज है, और फिर वो अक्रॉस द कंपनीज हमने एनालिसिस मैंने किया था, लाइक क्या एवरेज होना चाहिए, क्या बिलो एवरेज, क्या अबाव एवरेज। तो वही ये परसेंटेज है ना जिसके बारे में हम सोच रहे हैं कि क्या होना चाहिए।
Exactly. वो परसेंटेज है, नंबर है, डेसिमल है,
हाँ हाँ,
डिपेंडिंग ऑन उस पैरामीटर को कैसे डिफाइन कर रहे हो आप, उसी के लिए किया था ये।
राइट,
नाउ यू गॉट द पर्पस ऑफ इट।
यस,
कौन सा एवरेज है, कौन सा आउटलायर है।
या,
And I will request you, whenever you have the time, please write down your experience of the whole program, so that I would request you to post it on LinkedIn if you can. If not, at least give me a testimonial. If you can do both, great.
yes, sure.
Srikanth, would that be possible?
Yeah, sure.
Perfect. If you have any queries at any point in time, drop me a message. I'll call you as soon as I can, and we will talk about it. Okay.
Yes.
All the best. This is your ticket to finding great companies. Srikanth, you want to ask anything?
No, sir. That's it. That's what. But the thing is, I first of all want to clear it off one. Next, you mentioned on 20th, right? 20th.
I'm sorry.
20th of July, right? Next one.
You're not available on 20th July?
No. I'm asking when is our next session? 20th, correct? You mentioned
It's
in the
20th
starting
July.
of the. Okay, fine. No worries.
So
So one
till
point
then,
is.
yeah.
So
Your point.
one is the query daily twice. That is one thing. Understanding Michael Porter. Second, right?
Right.
And the third is our company analysis overall,
Yeah.
right?
Whatever you are, I mean, till you feel satisfied, do it.
Okay. मेरा एक ही क्वेश्चन है कंपनी एनालिसिस में एक्चुअली आई स्टार्टेड विद द क्वेश्चंस राइट ईच एग्जांपल मैनेजमेंट में we have 5 to 6 questions, correct?
Yeah. So business analysis and management analysis.
Correct. So example business analysis and management analysis mein we have a questions and trying to answer the question. So it is just to do a brief answer to that, right? I don't need to fill it up.
Absolutely.
All the history. Okay.
See, the idea is not to make you write down. I'm not going to correct as a question paper or an answer sheet. It is for you to understand it. And if you have any questions,
Right.
ask.
Okay, fine.
And the final leg is to look at all that you have done and reflect on it so that you can abstract information for better screening and prototyping.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So great. Please do spend time. Please do your best in terms of understanding